Hi everyone, welcome to the March QualiWare User Group meeting. My name is Cecile Hurley and I will be your host for the day. Joining me for the agenda is Kevin O'Rourke. Kevin is going to be doing a CloseReach news update. We have Sindeed Islam from our customer success team going to do a QualiAI demo. We have an update from our learning services team today. From Brenda Hines, and she's going to be talking about our latest new course, which is the QualiWare Basic Web course. So, without further ado, I shall hand it over to Mr. O'Rourke to do our CloseReach news update.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Wanted to let you know we've got a couple of new QualiWare customers. Transport Canada has acquired some licenses, and we're about to get them installed and up and running in their own environment, so that's great. Transport years ago had some and then gave them up, but they've returned to the fold, so that's great. Glad to have them back. And we're in the final stages, actually, of something with a private sector company in Ottawa, General Dynamics. So not quite 100% yet, but pretty close. We have some new staff at CloseReach. I think last meeting I introduced Michael Rowe, software engineer, who's with us. We have Michelle Aoun, who's joined, who is working with myself and Kirill in the sales area. So working with shared services, ESDC, and some other departments. And we have Adrian St. John, who is our internal information technology specialist. So responsible for our internal cloud and also working with customers on their cloud implementations as well. In terms of training, we've got some upcoming courses, and our first QualiWare Basic course for the web. So this will not use QLM. It will be web-based only, April 10th and 11th, and June 5th and 6th. You can see here, QualiWare Advanced, and again, Basic will be running the Windows QLM version in May. There's still a few days left in this fiscal year, so if there are any remaining funds that can be put on that credit card, you know, the Flex package will give you some good pricing for training. Want to talk a little bit about upcoming training for CBP, and Mike and Bob are getting close to a new release of CBP, which will run on version 10.9 and includes a web component to that. Mike, maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, CBP stands for Collaborative Business Planning. So it's the custom app that Bob Bovair, many of you know, had a big hand in. And really what it does is marries operational and financial data together with process views around value stream mapping and process flows, to kind of allow you to get at simulations, business simulations for looking at lead times, looking at process efficiencies, resource constraint planning, costing and budgeting. So we have two workshops. The first one there, BPAC, Business Process Analysis and Costing, is the methodology behind CBP. And DTO is digital twin of an organization. I'm sure many have heard of digital twins. What CBP and indeed what the whole QualiWare platform offers is the ability for users to have that digital perspective of their whole business environment. With CBP, it brings the simulation capabilities to bear. And then we have a DTO modeler course, which is really the down and dirty, roll up your sleeves, get into all the functionality, all the details behind what CBP offers. To basically build these models and hopefully for your users to take advantage of these, as Kevin says, over the web now. So thanks, Kevin.
Great, no problems. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Next on our agenda, I believe, is Cindeed with our QualiAI demo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the QualiWare user group today. Today, I'm going to be bringing you guys some very exciting news, some updates on the QualiAI and what we found out so far, and hopefully where QualiAI will be moving towards the future from what we've heard from QualiWare. So for those that weren't here last time, can you see my screen changing
Yes.
tabs?
Yep,
Okay,
everything.
perfect. Okay, perfect. So I'll just quickly go over some of the things that I went over last time. Since last time I went over QualiAI, we weren't quite sure how to set it up, but now we have figured out the setup. And so I'll quickly go over a recap, what there is to set up from the back end, from the repository administrator, what should be set up from QLM's perspective, and then I'll go over a quick demo of QualiAI. So what QualiAI is, I'm pretty sure we all know by now, but it's using AI and the different benefits that AI brings about to create process diagrams. This isn't limited to business process diagrams or workflow diagrams, but it can be extended out and branched out to many different types of diagrams. And that's something that we'll look forward to in the future. Now, for now, we've been testing with simple prompts such as create a process to bake a cake or help me out with figuring out a renting or a car rental business. Simple prompts like this, but if you include some context and some information in your input when filling out information for a QualiAI prompt, it will provide you more information. And we'll look into that a little bit later on when we're demoing. And so something that we're looking forward to in the future is using QualiAI to actually create reports from diagrams. So seeing how many users are accessing diagrams, how efficient certain processes are, and whatnot. This is something that hopefully we'll have somewhere down the line. And just a quick fun fact, this image is actually AI generated, although not made by QualiAI.
Yet.
Who knows? So the repository administrator setup. So there were a couple of changes from last time that we noticed. If I could use my pointer. There we go. Can you see the pointer?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So if we go into the repositories, so first we would need to select the repository that we're working on. The one that we currently are testing on is our testing repository, CR testing. Under the properties tab, there are 3 properties that we need to select. The first one is the API key. The second one is the model. And the third one is the AI URL. Now, these 3 I've linked at the end of this presentation, and I can share this presentation to Cecile. She can share it with everyone in the call. These 3 will need to be found from OpenAI's API website. So the first one, you'll need to generate a key. And from this, we would put it in here. But there is one thing to notice is that before you put in your personalized key, and this is something that I guess personalized to organization or from account to account, you should include the word bearer. The second thing is the QualiAI model. Now, the model is something that varies based on what your organization chooses on. So GPT-3 is something that is that was used in the past, and GPT-4 is the newer one. The difference among these different GPT models is the difference in the speed, the token number, and effectively that would also mean the cost. Currently, to use a GPT 3.5 Turbo as we're using here, to generate a diagram costs less than a cent. Now, to use GPT-4, just based on calculations off of token values, I've seen that it's somewhere around 8 to 10 times more. But since I don't know the exact cost of one diagram for GPT 3.5, excuse me, the cost could be somewhere around 7 to 10 cents. That is just an estimate. Don't quote me on that number exactly. But the benefits that GPT-4 brings about is quite differential. You can see there is a lot of new learning that the AI model has done, and they've trained the AI to be more intelligent in how it reacts with human beings. And the last one is the QualiAI URL. Since we are setting up the OpenAI setup, we have to ensure that we include the word chat between V1 and completions. This is something that wasn't there in the past, and we found that including chat has resolved some problems. So now moving away from the repository setup and getting into the QLM setup, we go into something known as the knowledge scope. Now the knowledge scope, as I went over before, it is a new template in QualiWare. They've provided us with two out-of-the-box templates, the business process diagram and the workflow diagram. But these can be customized, and that's pretty interesting because we can customize them to however your business needs might be or however your business functions. So that would allow the AI to be trained even further, whether you want a process to be linked in a certain way or you want to be linked in a different manner, you can be the one to make that change. So this is what the null scope actually looks like. It looks like there's a couple of things that need to be filled out: the context templates, the ontology, and I'll get into this in the next slide. This is the bulk of how the connections work, and the root definition. And so it's pretty cool that you can kind of customize everything on this, really. If we go into the ontology diagram, this is an OWL diagram. And so this helps the AI understand which data is relevant and should be considered during the generation process. For example, when using the business process template, the ontology field should point to an ontology diagram. And this is the ontology diagram right here. And this outlines the different sort of information, the different sorts of information that could be filled out within this diagram. For example, if we look at the business process, it could have a description, and that would be a text value, or it has a purpose, and that's also a text value. Or we can look at some other different types of properties, such as owned by, and these would point to a position, has responsible, employees, consultant, informed. These all point to a position. So if you can map out your ontology diagram and link it to the knowledge scope, I think the outcomes can be quite numerous, and the boundaries are limitless, really. I know that was a lot of technical stuff, but we'll get into the live demo now. And before we get into the demo, I'll actually show a bit of the models, the API keys, and so in my API key, I guess I can't show that because it has out. Actually, I can. The API key that we're getting right here is this key right here. You can create a new secret key. Do remember, this is not chatgpt.com. This is platform.openai.com. So this is where we can get our API key. We'd create a secret key and then copy this over, include bearer in the front, and that would be our API key. The models, this actually goes in depth on the different models and the different training capabilities that GPT has gone through. Whichever model you choose to use, you have to copy the model name from here, or the model version from here. So we're using GPT 3.5 Turbo, and this is the one that we've copied over. As we can see, for context, it is about 17,000 tokens. Meanwhile, if we go to GPT-4, it's about 128,000. So there is quite the bump up, but that also means an increase in efficiency and increase in the results that you'll get. And lastly, this is just kind of going over the monthly or spending that go, or the costs that come about with these diagrams. So I've been playing around with it for all of today, actually, just trying to prepare for the demo, and I've only used marginally, like just about a cent. So that's why I would say that the GPT 3.5, you could create lots and lots of diagrams without it costing virtually anything. Enough of the boring stuff. Let's get straight into the diagrams. So once we are in our web modeler, we can go under our templates and let's create a business process network. All right, so I will click on the three dots, click on create new business process network. Let's call this out QualiAI Quali User Group Testing. And so we'll test out two different types of diagrams. The first one, since we've been trying to get Bake a Cake to work from the past, let us try out bake a cake. Now, there are a couple of things that we need to notice before we can actually get the AI to work. Before we click on QualiAI, you have to save the diagram. If you click on QualiAI standalone, first of all, it'll say no usable knowledge scope, but it'll say that you should save the diagram. Object is not saved and cannot serve as context for the AI. So be sure to save your diagram regularly as best practice, as well as it'll allow the AI to work. The second thing to note is that in the knowledge scope that we defined it to be that it's context dependent. So it is whatever you select. So if I have the diagram selected, there is no context to this diagram. So it'll say no usable knowledge scope. There's no context that is linked to the knowledge scope that we've set up. So if we select the diagram, now we can select on QualiAI, and this will allow us to get into this window. And over here, we can put in any input we want. If we don't put an input, it'll generate a diagram standalone. If we want to say, create a vegan cake business, and we select generate diagram, it'll take a couple of seconds. I guess depending on the complexity of your diagram, it could take longer or shorter, but it will create a diagram. Now, some things that we've tried is that we've tried to prompt it to use different colors for the activities. It hasn't gotten there yet, but maybe that's something to look forward into the future. Now, this is actually very cool because a lot of the time when modelers go into diagramming objects, the hardest part is figuring out where to start, right? And I think currently this provides quite a good framework, putting out 5 different lanes, and with each activity, it also gives a short description. So for preparing the ingredients, which is under the kitchen team's tasks, gathering and preparing all vegan ingredients for the cake. Baking the vegan cake as per the recipe. Decorating, packaging, and finally, delivering the cake. While this might seem pretty simple at first, it's actually very interesting to think that we've taken such a step towards creating diagrams. I'm looking forward to using these diagrams to diagramming high-level processes and maybe doing something that would be more in depth. One thing also to note is that if you want to save this diagram, you must click save on here as well. If you end up closing the diagram and you don't save, these activities and these objects will be gone and your diagram will be left empty. So now that we've saved it, we can go back to our initial diagram and we'll see that Bake a Cake actually has a workflow diagram linked onto it now. And if we want to check that out, we can click it and it'll take us to the dashboard menu of the diagram. One other thing I noticed once testing, that to have this publish the diagram, you must have QCL engine enabled. It initially wasn't enabled and I was wondering why the diagram wasn't publishing. It was publishing, but once enabled QCL engine, it was publishing correctly. Let me just double check. Oh, there we go. Just needed a quick refresh. And now we can see the diagram on here. If I want to go back over here and edit the diagram, I can do that through the governance features. Now that might be baking a cake, and that's not really relevant to all businesses. Let's do something like hire an employee. So if I save the diagram first, because remember, this won't work unless you save it. I save the diagram, I go into QualiAI, and I want to hire an employee in my IT department. They must have knowledge on Azure, AWS. There we go. Let's generate this diagram. And so now I'm looking for specifics, right? I'm looking for someone not only in the IT sector, but he also has knowledge on Azure or AWS. So let's see how QualiAI will handle this.
So they don't come up with a cake baker.
Yeah. And as we can see, sometimes there will be some slip-ups, but we can try this out again. What's interesting is that every time you do generate a diagram, it won't generate the same diagram. So it'll generate something different every time. So if there does happen to be a slip-up like we just saw, we could try generating something else, and it'll generate a totally new diagram. That also means that you have different options if you like one out of the 3 that you created. So we start another one. Let's see, employee hiring. IT department responsible for hiring. It's still a work in progress, but it is better than the one we had before. Now, the knowledge assessment, it has it in here, assess Azure/AWS knowledge. I know if they are, in the connector, it says they are adequate. Okay, then we'll give them an interview. We conduct the interview, the candidate is approved, we prepare an offer letter, onboard the employee, and we have a successful hire. Now, this is something that provides the framework for an organization. They might have other things to add on here, and they're free to do so once they save the diagram and edit the diagram however they would like. And I think that kind of covers so far how much we know of QualiAI. I think it's a huge step that we've taken. Just a couple of months ago, we would have to be sitting at the drawing board thinking, how do we want to set this up? Now with this, we can see that there's been a lot that QualiWare has worked on their end, and kudos to Kuno and team. Kudos to Kuno, a good ring to it. But kudos to Russell and the guys that have set up QualiAI. I think there's lots of potential in this tool, and since the cost is very low, it would be very pivotal for organizations to kind of implement QualiAI in their organizations. I can take any questions if anyone has any.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Cindy. That's great. Anybody have questions? Bob's got his hand up.
I've got a couple of questions. So this is all in release 10.9?
This is all in release 10.9, correct?
Excellent. Do you need a special license from QualiWare to be able to use this?
No, you do not need a special license from QualiWare to use this. You would need an architect license to architect, but there's no different license beyond what QualiWare already offers.
Okay, so I guess the ontology diagram is probably the biggest thing that you have to work at to get this up and running.
Correct. So they do have the 2 there out of the box. This one is already provided in 10.9,
Okay.
but the other ones, they don't seem too complicated to set up. You just kind of have to know what to set up, and once it's set up, it's there, it's ready.
Cool. That's it. Yeah, that's all I have for questions. Thank you.
If you're using the existing ontologies, could you get by with a plus license only?
What was that again, sorry?
I think you should be able to get by with just a plus license because you're editing content in a template and you're just using a workflow or a process, one of the process diagrams. So you may not necessarily need an architect license. A plus license might be sufficient. Kuno's not.
I think that would make sense, yeah. Kuno, if you want to confirm.
Yeah, that's right. That there's nothing license-wise on the AI, and the reason you need the plus license is to save the workflow diagram and the business process diagram. If you do this with other diagram types, it's the license that is required for those diagram types, which of course is then the architect. But there are actually there is an architecture, an Archimate viewpoint that we defined called business process network Archimate, which is also covered by the plus license. And I think there's one more.
But there's no ontology model for those yet.
There is no ontology model for that, no, but that is just a model that you define, and the prompts that goes in is, yeah, well, you have to play around with that a little bit maybe. And in the knowledge scope, you're also able to set what is known as the temperature or the level of creativity, if you wish, from the AI. If you set it close to 0, you'll get the same as you got last time. If you set it close to 1, it'll be very creative and create tons of new stuff for you. It's recommended to play around with it, actually, to include prompts. If you can see that there are prompts that you use regularly, create a prompt for that and attach it, link it, so you can reuse the prompts. The AI community talks about prompt engineering. So as soon as you get better and better at prompting, some of these prompts may be reusable by other people and other diagram types. So.
Great.
And I think just on your point of randomness and temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Okay. Quick question. Did you mention about the fact that a user does need to have OpenAI account?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess yeah, that is a given, that you would need to generate your key, you would need to have a login and password.
Okay.
And they do provide you with $5 of free credit for the first 20 months, but after that you would have to fund the account yourself or the organization.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Cindy.
All right.
That was great.
Mhm.
Without further
Thank
ado, Ms. Hines for our new course info.
New course info. So I'm just going to share my screen. So my name is Brenda Hines. For those of you that I don't know, I am the Learning Services lead. And so we've been working hard in Learning Services, looking at courseware updates and just things we need to do to sort of get our courses current. So the first one that we really went and looked at with any intensity was QualiWare Basics. So initially we were looking at just updating the current QualiWare Basic course, and then we realized that in fact what we wanted to do was to be able to still offer the QualiWare Basic for people who are using architect licenses, running it on Windows, and so we wanted to just keep that as is, and it will be updated to reflect some 10.8 and 10.9 functionality, but we decided that what we really needed was a new course, and initially we were just going to focus on the web modeler piece, and so as we started down that path, we realized, in fact, no, what we wanted to do was really create a new course that covered not only the content creation aspect from QualiWare Web, but also the content interaction piece. So that's what we've done. So we are ready to launch this course. It's like the birth of a new baby. We'll be so registration is open for those courses. So as Kevin mentioned in his overview, so April 10th and 11th and June 5th and 6th are the current dates for that. The link is live there below. But so really, as I said, when we started looking at this, and we were initially just focused on the web modeler interface and sort of learning how to create diagrams and all that kind of stuff, we realized that in fact it needed to be so much more than that, right? So the content creation side versus content interaction, or not versus, it's along with content interaction. So this is what it's going to cover. So you'll go through that modeler interface that Cindy showed you very quickly on adding on an object onto the diagram canvas, being able to quickly create diagrams in there. And again, either launching that from the tile or from the repository. We'll show different ways to get into it. We'll talk about editing symbols and editing objects, just as we do in the current course. And then we'll look at other ways to create a diagram. So as you know, text to model and table to model are ways that we can, take content in and create diagrams as a result of that content being captured. So we also have introduced exercises on spreadsheets, the revision compare, and of course, QualiHelp is new. So we've included some content around QualiHelp and how to use that. So the course is structured the same as our other courses in that it's really a combination of a lecture and presentation material, as well as demo and then hands-on exercises. So we've taken that same approach with this course. And then from the content interaction perspective, what we did is we looked at, how we can present for people who have not worked in the QualiWare workspace at all on the web. We'll walk you through that, and then familiarize people with the idea of desktops and tiles and dashboards. And so we'll go into some detail on the different dashboards. So looking at browsing dashboards versus analyzing and what the dashboard items and things like that are. And then we'll cover Repository Explorer in some depth as we do in the regular QualiWare basic course, but now you're seeing it from the web and how to interact with Repository Explorer on the web. And then looking at, navigating a diagram, how you would collaborate on content. So again, if you are looking at having dispersed teams or, where you're maybe just dispersed between offices, not necessarily geography, but how you can collaborate on content by creating comments and keeping track of the changes and revisions and things like that. We'll go through some governance actions and how we can govern content and look at approved content and revision it and get things changed, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, the visualization piece, we have the 3D visualizer, but also looking at, how we can drill down into content and visualize some of that on other types of charts and off of dashboard items and things like that. And then the repository compare, we'll touch on that in the content interaction. So how do we look at and compare differences between repositories and be able to manage that? We kind of debate whether we would put that over in the advanced course, but I think for now we'll leave it there. We are looking at, we're basically updating all of the course catalog. So it's a matter of, sort of prioritizing changes in new courses. So the next one that's coming up, I will say Publisher is going through an update right now to include dashboards, dashboard items, exercises on the setup of those things. So in the basic, it's going to show you how to interact with those things, but it's not going to, educate you on how to set those up. That's going to be something we'll cover in the Publisher course. The advanced is going to be advanced on the web. So it will be a new course for web. So again, we'll look at the outline and the content that we have in the current advanced course, which some of it we've talked about. I've sort of canvassed people on their feedback on the advanced course and what we could remove and sort of replace with some other things that are more topical. So the QualiAI piece, for example, would fall into the advanced course, the setup of all of that and exercises on its use and stuff. And then maybe as we get more familiar with it, we move it over to basic, right? So who knows, it's up for debate. And then we're looking at a minor update to the governance workflow and engine course. And the other one that needs a little bit of attention is the repository administrator course. So, but that's kind of where, some of the plans and things we're doing in learning services. So just as a broader view of some of the things that we have going on. And like I say, we're a team that is very much dispersed on other billable work and other internal CloseReach work. So, we get to what we can, but back to QualiWare Basic on the web. So this is who we would suggest should attend this course, is really, if you think of it from the business perspective, look at business operations folks or planners and transformation architects and process modelers and people who are doing, business analysts, people who are looking at, requirements and processes and gap analysis and things like that, right? And then business architects who are trying to look at everything from, the strategy, the business strategy, sort of through to execution. This is a good start for them to understand the web modeler interface. Of course, all enterprise architects. We also felt that project managers and quality managers are people who could attend this course because it's really people who are also consuming the content. So it's one thing that the business, other folks may be actually creating the architecture description, but it's who's consuming it on the other side, right? So it's to think of both sides of the or the many sides of the organization, not just two sides. And then, of course, any people who are using Visio or Sparks or other sort of EA tools or diagramming tools, use our web interface. It's quite user friendly. It's very, it's easy to use. It's powerful, but it's easy to use, right? And so these are the things that we want to have in our toolkit as architects. So these are the people that we would suggest, consider this course and attend this course. And again, as I say, there's just some, and we'll leave these slides, of course, up in the meeting. But these are just some of the screenshots of things that we'll cover both from a content creation and a content interaction perspective. But it's really everything: creating diagrams, understanding editing diagrams, objects, understanding building QRVs and building spreadsheets, and understanding how to display those on the desktop. And then, of course, how we interact with it through the dashboards and dashboard items, and be able to, make some decisions and transform some things through the content that's been captured. And so, yeah, that's what's happening. So please promote it within your organizations. If you need any help with content or promoting it, please feel free to reach out to anybody on the CloseReach team, and we'll be happy to help.
Great. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
So thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate your attendance and your interest. Our next user group meeting is at the end of April, the last Monday of April. Agenda will be finalized in the next week or so, and the registration email will go out. If you have any suggestions of things that you'd like to see in the user group meetings, please do feel free to reach out to me directly. You have my email address, and we'll ensure that those things get included. So thanks very much for your time, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.